Sleep Now presents Fall Asleep to X, formerly Twitter, Terms of Service. X, Terms of Service. Summary of our terms. These terms of service, terms, are part of the user agreement, a legally binding contract governing your use of X. You should read these terms of service, terms, in full. But here are a few key things you should take away. You will see advertising on the platform. In exchange for accessing the services, X and our third-party providers and partners may display advertising to you. When posting content and otherwise using the services, you must comply with this user agreement and applicable law. You are responsible for your use of the services and your content. You must comply with this user agreement, its incorporated policies, and all applicable laws. You must abide by the service's acceptable use terms. You may not access the services in any way other than through the currently available published interfaces that we provide. For example, this means that you cannot scrape the services without X's express written permission. Try to work around any technical limitations we impose, or otherwise attempt to disrupt the operation of the services. We have broad enforcement rights. X reserves the right to take enforcement actions against you if you do violate these terms, such as, for example, removing your content, limiting visibility, discontinuing your access to X, or taking legal action. We may also suspend or terminate your account for other reasons, such as prolonged inactivity, risk of legal exposure, or commercial viability. There are intellectual property licenses in these terms. You retain ownership and rights to any of your content you post or share, and you provide us with a broad, royalty-free license to make your content available to the rest of the world and to let others do the same. Conversely, we provide you a license to use the software we provide as part of the services, such as the X mobile application, solely for the purpose of enabling you to use and enjoy the benefit of the services. Your use of the services is at your own risk. We provide the services on an as-is and as-available basis, and we disclaim all warranties, responsibility, and liability to you or others to the extent permitted by law. You may be exposed to offensive or harmful content posted by other users. The services may change from time to time, and we may limit or terminate availability of the services or particular features to you or other users at any time. You have remedies and redress mechanisms, but our liability is limited. You have a right to terminate this agreement at any time by deactivating your account and discontinuing use of the services. Note that we will not be liable for certain types of damages as described in the agreement, and in any event, our aggregate liability shall not exceed the greater of $100 or the amount you paid us, if any, in the past 6 months for the services giving rise to the claim. Further, if you believe that your content has been copied in a way that constitutes copyright infringement, the reporting process is detailed in these terms. If you are a recipient of the X service in the European Union, you may challenge certain decisions we make under the Digital Services Act, Regulation EU 2022-2065, via our internal process or via out-of-court dispute settlement as described here. Please also note that these terms incorporate our privacy policy, as well as other terms applicable to your use of the services and your content. Finally, these terms may vary depending on where you live, but in any case, you must be at least 13 years old to use X. X, terms of service. If you live outside the European Union, EFTA states, or the United Kingdom, including if you live in the United States. These terms of service govern your and other users' access to and use of our services, including our various websites, SMS, APIs, email notifications, applications, buttons, widgets, ads, commerce services, and our other covered services that link to these terms, collectively the services, and any information, text, links, graphics, photos, audio, videos, or other materials or arrangements of materials uploaded, downloaded, or appearing on the services, collectively referred to as content. By using the services, you agree to be bound by these terms. These terms are an agreement between you and X Corp, which provides X and the services with its registered office at 865 FM 1209, Building 2, Bastrop, Texas 78602, USA. The words we, us, and our mean X Corp. 1. Who may use the services? You may use the services only if you agree to form a binding contract with us and are not a person barred from receiving services under the laws of the applicable jurisdiction. In any case, you must be at least 13 years old to use the services. If you are, accepting these terms and or using the services, which constitutes acceptance of these terms, or II, accepting these terms in order to authorize the use of the services on behalf of a minor, being any person under the age of majority in any given country, company, organization, government, or other legal entity you represent and warrant that you are authorized to do so, or, as the case may be, have the authority to bind such minor and/or entity to these terms. The words you and your, as used in these terms, shall refer either to the person accepting these terms or such minor as defined in I, and/or the entity referenced in II, as applicable. 2. Privacy. Our privacy policy describes how we handle the information you provide to us when you use the services. You understand that through your use of the services, you consent to the collection and use, as set forth in the privacy policy, of this information, including the transfer of this information to the United States, Ireland, and/or other countries for storage, processing, and use by us and our affiliates. 3. Content on the services. You are responsible for your use of the services and for any content you provide, including compliance with applicable laws, rules, and regulations. You should only provide content that you are comfortable sharing with others. Any use or reliance on any content or materials posted via the services or obtained by you through the services is at your own risk. We do not endorse, support, represent, or guarantee the completeness, truthfulness, accuracy, or reliability of any content or communications posted via the services or endorse any alleged facts or opinions expressed via the services. You understand that by using the services, you may be exposed to content that might be offensive, harmful, inaccurate, or otherwise inappropriate, or in some cases, postings that have been mislabeled or are otherwise deceptive. All content is the sole responsibility of the person who originated such content. We may not monitor or control the content posted via the services, and we cannot take responsibility for such content. We reserve the right to remove content that violates the user agreement, including, for example, copyright or trademark violations, or other intellectual property misappropriation, impersonation, unlawful conduct, or harassment. Information regarding specific policies and the process for reporting or appealing violations can be found in our Help Center. If you believe that your content has been copied in a way that constitutes copyright infringement, please report this by visiting our copyright reporting form or contacting our designated copyright agent at XCorp. Attention, Copyright Agent, 865 FM 1209, Building 2, Bastrop, Texas 78602. Your rights and grant of rights in the content. You retain your rights to any content you submit, post, or display on or through the services. What's yours is yours. You own your content, and your incorporated audio, photos, and videos are considered part of the content. By submitting, posting, or displaying content on or through the services, you grant us a worldwide, non-exclusive, royalty-free license with the right to sublicense to use, copy, reproduce, process, adapt, modify, publish, transmit, display, upload, download, and distribute such content in any and all media or distribution methods now known or later developed for any purpose. For clarity, these rights include, for example, curating, transforming, and translating. This license authorizes us to make your content available to the rest of the world and to let others do the same. You agree that this license includes the right for us to I. Analyze text and other information you provide, and to otherwise provide, promote, and improve the services, including, for example, for use with and training of our machine learning and artificial intelligence models, whether generative or another type, and II, to make content submitted to or through the services available to other companies, organizations, or individuals, including, for example, for improving the services in the syndication, broadcast, distribution, repost, promotion, or publication of such content on other media and services, subject to our terms and conditions for such content use. Such additional uses by us or other companies, organizations, or individuals is made with no compensation paid to you with respect to the content that you submit, post, transmit, or otherwise make available through the services, as the use of the services by you is hereby agreed as being sufficient compensation for the content and grant of rights herein. We have an evolving set of rules for how ecosystem partners can interact with your content on the services. These rules exist to enable an open ecosystem with your rights in mind. You understand that we may modify or adapt your content as it is distributed, syndicated, published, or broadcast by us and our partners, and or make changes to your content in order to adapt the content to different media. You represent and warrant that you have or have obtained all rights, licenses, consents, permissions, power, and or authority necessary to grant the rights granted herein for any content that you submit, post, or display on or through the services. You agree that such content will not contain material subject to copyright or other proprietary rights unless you have necessary permission or are otherwise legally entitled to post the material and to grant us the license described above. 4. Using the services. Please review our rules and policies, which are part of the user agreement and outline conduct that is prohibited on the services. You may use the services only in compliance with these terms and all applicable laws, rules, and regulations. X takes enforcement actions when content or user behavior is in violation of our rules and policies, or in relation to sensitive media. You can review X's enforcement options and how you can appeal our enforcement decision here. The services evolve constantly. As such, the services may change from time to time at our discretion. We may stop permanently or temporarily providing the services or any features within the services to you or to users generally. We also retain the right to create limits on use and storage at our sole discretion at any time. We may also remove or refuse to distribute any content on the services, limit distribution or visibility of any content on the service, suspend or terminate users, and reclaim usernames without liability to you. In consideration for our granting you access to and use of the services, you agree that we and our third-party providers and partners may place advertising on the services or in connection with the display of content or information from the services, whether submitted by you or others. We also reserve the right to access, read, preserve, and disclose any information as we reasonably believe is necessary to I. Satisfy any applicable law, regulation, legal process, or governmental request. II. Enforce the terms, including investigation of potential violations hereof. III. Detect, prevent, or otherwise address fraud, security, or technical issues. IV. Respond to user support requests, or V. Protect the rights, property, or safety of X, its users, and the public. We do not disclose personally identifying information to third parties, except in accordance with our privacy policy. Certain services or features may be offered on X for which additional terms and conditions may apply in connection with your use of those services. By using or paying for any of these additional services, you agree to any additional terms applicable to those services, and those additional terms become part of our agreement with you. If any of the applicable additional terms conflict with these terms, the additional terms will prevail while you are using those services to which they apply. If you use paid features of the services, you agree to the applicable terms for paid services. If you use developer features of the services, including but not limited to X for websites, you agree to our developer agreement and developer policy. If you want to reproduce, modify, create derivative works, distribute, sell, transfer, publicly display, publicly perform, transmit, or otherwise use the services or content on the services, you must use the interfaces and instructions we provide, except as permitted through the services. These terms, or the terms provided on. Otherwise, all such actions are strictly prohibited. If you are a security researcher, you are required to comply with the rules of our vulnerability reporting program. The requirements set out in the preceding paragraph may not apply to those participating in our vulnerability reporting program. If you use advertising features of this services, you agree to our Master Services Agreement. Your account. You may need to create an account to use the services. You are responsible for safeguarding your account, so use a strong password and limit its use to this account, and use two-factor authentication via an authenticator app or security key. We cannot and will not be liable for any loss or damage arising from your failure to comply with the above. You can control most communications from the services. We may need to provide you with certain communications, such as service announcements and administrative messages. These communications are considered part of the services and your account, and you may not be able to opt out from receiving them. If you added your phone number to your account and you later change or deactivate that phone number, you must update your account information to help prevent us from communicating with anyone who acquires your old number. Your license to use the services. We give you a personal, worldwide, royalty-free, non-assignable, and non-exclusive license to use the software provided to you as part of the services. This license cannot be assigned, gifted, sold, shared, or transferred in any other manner to any other individual or entity without X's express written consent. This license has the sole purpose of enabling you to use and enjoy the benefit of the services as provided on X in the manner permitted by these terms. The services are protected by copyright, trademark, and other laws of both the United States and other countries. Nothing in the terms gives you a right to use the X name or any of the X trademarks, logos, domain names, other distinctive brand features, and other proprietary rights. All right, title, and interest in and to the services, excluding content provided by users, are and will remain our and our licensor's exclusive property. Any feedback, comments, or suggestions you may provide regarding X or the services is entirely voluntary, and we will be free to use such feedback, comments, or suggestions as we see fit and without any obligation to you. Misuse of the services. You also agree not to misuse the services, for example, by interfering with them or accessing them using a method other than the interface and the instructions that we provide. You agree that you will not work around any technical limitations in the software provided to you as part of the services, or reverse engineer, decompile, or disassemble the software, except and only to the extent that applicable law expressly permits. You may not do any of the following while accessing or using the services: I. Access, tamper with, or use non-public areas of the services, our computer systems, or the technical delivery systems of our providers. II. Probe, scan, or test the vulnerability of any system or network, or breach or circumvent any security or authentication measures. III. Access or search or attempt to access or search the services by any means, automated or otherwise, other than through our currently available published interfaces that are provided by us and only pursuant to the applicable terms and conditions, unless you have been specifically allowed to do so in a separate agreement with us. Note: crawling or scraping the services in any form for any purpose without our prior written consent is expressly prohibited. AV. Forge any TCP, IP packet header, or any part of the header information in any email or posting. V. In any way use the services to send altered, deceptive, or false source identifying information. VI. Engage in or conduct that violates our platform manipulation and spam policy, or any other rules and policies, including our misuse of reporting features policy. Or 7. Interfere with, or disrupt, or attempt to do so, the access of any user, host, or network, including, without limitation, sending a virus, overloading, flooding, spamming, mail bombing the services, or by scripting the creation of content in such a manner as to interfere with or create an undue burden on the services. It is also a violation of these terms to facilitate or assist others in violating these terms, including by distributing products or services that enable or encourage violation of these terms. Ending these terms. You may end your legal agreement with us at any time by deactivating your accounts and discontinuing your use of the services. See hyperlink to website for instructions on how to deactivate your account and the privacy policy for more information on what happens to your information. We may suspend or terminate your account or cease providing you with all or part of the services at any time if we reasonably believe: 1. You have violated these terms or our rules and policies. 2. You create risk or possible legal exposure for us. 3. Your account should be removed due to unlawful conduct. 4. Your account should be removed due to prolonged inactivity. Or 5. Our provision of the services to you is no longer commercially viable. We will make reasonable efforts to notify you by the email address associated with your account or the next time you attempt to access your account, depending on the circumstances. To the extent permitted by law, we may also terminate your account or cease providing you with all or part of the services for any other reason or no reason at our convenience. In all such cases, the terms shall terminate, including, without limitation, your license to use the services, except that the following sections shall continue to apply: 2, 3, 5, 6, and the misuse provisions of Section 4, misuse of the services. If you believe your account was terminated in error, you can file an appeal following the steps found in our Help Center. For the avoidance of doubt, these terms survive the deactivation or termination of your account. 5. Disclaimers and limitations of liability. The services are available as is. Your access to and use of the services or any content are at your own risk. You understand and agree that the services are provided to you on an as-is and as-available basis. The X entities refer to X Corp, its parents, affiliates, related companies, officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, partners, and licensors. Without limiting the foregoing to the maximum extent permitted under applicable law, the X entities disclaim all warranties and conditions, whether express or implied, of merchantability, fitness for a particular purpose, or non-infringement. The X entities make no warranty or representation and disclaim all responsibility and liability for 1. The completeness, accuracy, availability, timeliness, security, or reliability of the services or any content. 2. Any harm to your computer system, loss of data, or other harm that results from your access to or use of the services or any content. 3. The deletion of or the failure to store or to transmit any content and other communications maintained by the services. And 4. Whether the services will meet your requirements or be available on an uninterrupted, secure, or error-free basis. No advice or information, whether oral or written, obtained from the X entities or through the services, will create any warranty or representation not expressly made herein. Limitation of liability. Notwithstanding any other terms to the contrary, to the maximum extent permitted by applicable law, the X entities shall not be liable for any indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or punitive damages, reliance, or any loss of profits or revenues, whether incurred directly or indirectly, or any loss of data, use, goodwill, or other intangible losses, resulting from 1. Your access to, or use of, or inability to access, or use the services. 2. Any conduct or content of any user or third party on the services, including without limitation or defamatory, offensive, or illegal conduct of other uses or third parties. 3. Any content obtained from the services, or 4. Unauthorized access, use, or alteration of your transmissions or content. In no event shall the aggregate liability of the X entities exceed the greater of $100 or the amount you paid us, if any, in the past 6 months for the services giving rise to the claim. The limitations of this subsection shall apply to any theory of liability, whether based on warranty, contract, statute, tort, including negligence, or otherwise, and whether or not the X entities have been informed of the possibility of any such damage, and even if a remedy set forth herein is found to have failed of its essential purpose. By agreeing to these terms or using the services, you agree to the maximum extent permitted by applicable law that the X entities are not responsible or liable to you or others for the actions or conduct of users and third parties on the services, or for any content users and third parties share on the services, including offensive, defamatory, illegal, or other objectionable content. Liquidated damages. Protecting our users' data and our system resources is important to us. You further agree that, to the extent permitted by applicable law, if you violate the terms, or you induce or facilitate others to do so, in addition to all other legal remedies available to us, you will be jointly and severely liable to us for liquidated damages as follows: for requesting, viewing, or accessing more than 1 million posts, including reply posts, video posts, image posts, and any other posts in any 24-hour period, $15,000 per 1 million posts. You agree that these amounts are 1. A reasonable estimate of our damages, 2. Not a penalty, and 3. Not otherwise limiting of our ability to recover from you or others under any legal or equitable theory or claim, including but not limited to statutory damages and or equitable relief. You further agree that repeated violations of these terms will irreparably harm and entitle us to injunctive and or equitable relief in addition to monetary damages. 6. General. We may revise these terms from time to time. The changes will not be retroactive, and the most current version of the terms, which will always be at https://x.com/TOS, will govern our relationship with you. We will try to notify you of material revisions. For example, via a service notification or an email to the email associated with your account. By continuing to access or use the services after those revisions become effective, you agree to be bound by the revised terms. The laws of the state of Texas, excluding its choice of law provisions, will govern these terms and any dispute that arises between you and us, notwithstanding any other agreement between you and us to the contrary. All disputes related to these terms or the services, including without limitation disputes related to or arising from other users and third parties' use of the services, and any content made available by other users and third parties on the services, will be brought exclusively in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas, or state courts located in Tarrant County, Texas, United States, and you consent to personal jurisdiction in those forums and waive any objection as to inconvenient forum. Without prejudice to the foregoing, you agree that, in its sole discretion, X may bring any claim, cause of action, or dispute we have against you in any competent court in the country in which you reside that has jurisdiction and venue over the claim. To the extent permitted by law, you also waive the right to participate as a plaintiff or class member in any purported class action, corrective action, or representative action proceeding. If you are a federal, state, or local government entity in the United States, using the services in your official capacity and legally unable to accept the controlling law, jurisdiction, or venue clauses above, then those clauses do not apply to you. For such U.S. federal government entities, these terms and any action related thereto will be governed by the laws of the United States of America, without reference to conflict of laws. And, in the absence of federal law, and to the extent permitted under federal law, the laws of the state of Texas, excluding choice of law. You and X agree that you must initiate any proceeding or action within 1 year of the date of the occurrence of the event or facts giving rise to a dispute that is arising out of or related to these terms. Otherwise, to the extent permitted by applicable law, you forever waive the right to pursue any claim or cause of action of any kind or character based on such events or facts, and such claims or causes of action are permanently barred. In the event that any provision of these terms is held to be invalid or unenforceable, then that provision will be limited or eliminated to the minimum extent necessary, and the remaining provisions of these terms will remain in full force and effect. Our failure to enforce any right or provision of these terms will not be deemed a waiver of such right or provision. The X-user agreement is written in English, but it is made available in multiple languages through translations. X strives to make the translations as accurate as possible to the original English version. However, in any case of any discrepancies or inconsistencies, the English language version of the X user agreement shall take precedence. You acknowledge that English shall be the language of reference for interpreting and constructing the terms of the X user agreement. If you have any questions about these terms, please contact us. Effective November 15th, 2024. The X rules. X's purpose is to serve the public conversation. Violence, harassment, and other similar types of behavior discourage people from expressing themselves and ultimately diminish the value of global public conversation. Our rules are to ensure all people can participate in the public conversation freely and safely. Safety. Violent content. You may share graphic media if it is properly labeled, not prominently displayed, and is not excessively gory or depicting sexual violence, but explicitly threatening, inciting, glorifying, or expressing desire for violence is not allowed. Violent and hateful entities. You can't affiliate with or promote the activities of violent and hateful entities. child safety. We have zero tolerance for any forms of child sexual exploitation and remove certain media depicting physical child abuse to prevent the normalization of violence against children. Abuse, harassment. You may not share abusive content, engaged in the targeted harassment of someone, or incite other people to do so. Hateful conduct. You may not attack other people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, caste, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious affiliation, age, disability, or serious disease. Perpetrators of violent attacks. We will remove any accounts maintained by individual perpetrators of terrorists, violent extremists, or mass violent attacks, and may also remove posts disseminating manifestos or other content produced by perpetrators. Adult content. You may share consensually produced and distributed adult nudity or sexual behavior, provided it is properly labeled and not prominently displayed. Illegal or certain regulated goods or services. You may not use our service for any unlawful purpose or in furtherance of illegal activities. This includes selling, buying, or facilitating transactions in illegal goods or services, as well as certain types of regulated goods or services. Privacy. Private information. You may not publish or post other people's private information, such as home phone number and address, without their express authorization and permission. We also prohibit threatening to expose private information or incentivizing others to do so. Non-consensual nudity. You may not post or share intimate photos or videos of someone that were produced or distributed without their consent. Account compromise. You may not use or attempt to use credentials, passwords, tokens, keys, cookies, or other data to log into or otherwise access, add, delete, or modify the private information or account features of any X account other than your own, or those you have been directly authorized to do so via X's team's authorization. OAuth authorization or similar mechanism. Authenticity. Platform manipulation and spam. You may not use X's services in a manner intended to artificially amplify or suppress information or engage in behavior that manipulates or disrupts people's experience on X. Civic integrity. You may not use X's services for the purpose of manipulating or interfering in elections or other civic processes. This includes posting or sharing content that may suppress participation or mislead people about when, where, or how to participate in a civic process. misleading, and deceptive identities. You may not impersonate individuals, groups, or organizations to mislead, confuse, or deceive others, nor use a fake identity in a manner that disrupts the experience of others on X. Synthetic and manipulated media. You may not deceptively share synthetic or manipulated media that are likely to cause harm. In addition, we may label posts containing synthetic and manipulated media to help people understand their authenticity and to provide additional context. Copyright and trademark. You may not violate others' intellectual property rights, including copyright and trademark. Third-party advertising and video content. You may not submit, post, or display any video content on or through our services that includes third-party advertising, such as pre-roll video ads or sponsorship graphics, without our prior consent. Enforcement and appeals. Learn more about our approach to enforcement, including potential consequences for violating these rules or attempting to circumvent enforcement, as well as how to appeal. Hopefully, you are now asleep. If not, please check out our other videos on our Sleep Now channel, which should surely lull you to sleep. New videos are coming soon, so please subscribe. Thank you.